My name is Mia Miller, and I am 19 years old now. But this story really begins when I was 13, on a day that was supposed to be my birthday celebration. We were in our own backyard in Alpharetta, Georgia, on a sweltering July afternoon. There were maybe 30 people gathered there, but if you look closely, you would realize they were almost all there for my sister, Madison. Her entire varsity cheer squad was present. A flock of girls in matching Lululemon shorts, and their parents milled around the patio, sipping spiked lemonade from red Solo cups. I was leaning over a lopsided grocery store cake, the wax from the 13 cheap candles already starting to melt into the blue frosting. Just as I took a deep breath to blow them out, my own mother, her speech already slightly slurred from the chilled Chardonnay someone had brought, let out a sharp laugh that cut right through the low hum of conversation. In front of everyone, she slung an arm around Madison and announced, "You know, sometimes I genuinely wish you had never been born. This house would be so much quieter and easier without you." My sister, without even a flicker of surprise or empathy, added with a cold smirk, "Mom, seriously. She just makes everything more difficult." The entire backyard fell into a thick, suffocating silence. A couple of the cheerleaders snickered into their hands. Some of the parents suddenly found the pattern on their flip-flops fascinating. I just stood there, frozen, the breath trapped in my lungs. After a few seconds that felt like an eternity, I slowly set the plastic cake knife down on the folding table, turned around, and walked back into the house without saying a single word to anyone. That same night, just before I closed the front door on that life for good, I looked back one last time at their confused faces and said, "Fine. From now on, just consider me dead." Then I left with nothing but the worn-out North Face backpack I took to school every day. 5 years later, well, let us just say the fallout from that one decision was a Category 5 hurricane of chaos, and nobody, least of all them, ever saw it coming. If you want to know exactly how that one night blew my entire family's perfect suburban world to pieces, how they spiraled into a total panic, how everything they had built came crashing down, and where we all are today, you need to stay with me until the very end, because the truth is more unbelievable than any story you have heard. Go ahead and hit that like button if you have ever had a family moment that changed the entire game. And if this story hits a little too close to home for you, comment "I felt that" down below. Now, let us get into it. As far back as my memories go, I was the spare part in the Miller family machine. My older sister, Madison, was the sun, and the rest of us were just tiny planets forced into her orbit. She started competitive cheer when she was 7, and by the time she was 9, she was the celebrated captain of the junior team at Milton Academy. My parents, Robert and Linda Miller, made sure every soul in the county knew it. They were not just parents, they were her full-time marketing team. New uniforms were purchased every single season, custom-made bows with her initials in Swarovski crystals, and pom-poms studded with tiny glitter that would catch the stadium lights and shine like diamonds. They poured money into private tumbling lessons in downtown Atlanta and exclusive stunt camps in Orlando. When Madison's squad made it to nationals in the 8th grade, my dad rented a full-size luxury coach for the entire team. And my mom hosted an elaborate watch party at the local country club, complete with professional catering and a custom vinyl banner. When I timidly asked if I could try out for the middle school cheer team, I was handed a pair of Madison's old Nikes. They were 2 sizes too big, the soles worn so smooth they felt like ice on the gym floor. On the very first day of tryouts, I slipped during a simple routine, and the sound of laughter echoed in the huge space. My dad just patted my shoulder later that night and said, "Maybe cheer just is not your sport, kiddo." When Madison turned 10, she decided cheerleading was not enough of a challenge, so she took up English-style horse riding at the prestigious Willow Creek Stables. We are talking expensive leather saddles, weekly private lessons that cost a small fortune, and show jackets that cost more than our monthly mortgage payment on the house. She competed across the entire Southeast, traveling to Kentucky, Alabama, and Florida, and her bedroom walls started disappearing behind a sea of blue ribbons and massive silver trophies. My mom eventually converted the entire upstairs bonus room into a shrine dedicated to Madison's equestrian achievements. I loved horses, too, with a quiet, deep passion that I kept to myself. I begged for lessons every birthday, every Christmas, every time I brought home a report card with straight A's. The answer was always a variation of the same theme. Those lessons are for Madison, sweetie. She has a real natural gift. She is one of the best in the state. You would just be holding the instructor back and wasting our time. The closest I ever got to a horse was being allowed to feed carrots to our neighbor's old retired mare over the fence. That was the extent of my equestrian experience. The inequality was baked into the very walls of our suburban home. When Madison turned 9, she got her bedroom redecorated in a chic lavender and gray. The big, master-sized room at the end of the hall with the high vaulted ceiling and a walk-in closet that was bigger than most people's first apartments. The second largest bedroom, which logically should have been mine, was transformed into her dedicated cheer room. It had custom-built shelves for her trophies, industrial-grade clothing racks for her countless uniforms, and a full-length vanity mirror surrounded by bright Hollywood-style LED lights. There were even color-coded bins for her different hair bows. So, from the age of 9 until the day I left at 13, my bedroom was the pull-out couch in the unfinished basement. There was not even a proper door, just a heavy, sliding, barn-style door that never quite closed all the way, leaving a permanent gap for the cold air to whistle through. The central air conditioning barely reached down there, so in the Georgia summer, it was a suffocating, damp heat box. In the winter, I would sleep wearing 3 hoodies and thick wool socks, my breath sometimes fogging in the air. My clothes were stored in cheap plastic totes stacked under the basement stairs. Whenever relatives came to visit from out of town, they were given the actual guest room upstairs. I, of course, stayed on the basement couch. My mother just told everyone I was low maintenance and preferred my own space. Weekends were always Madison's time to shine. My dad would hook up the expensive horse trailer to his truck, and together they would load it with her high-end tack boxes. They would leave on a Thursday night for shows in Lexington or Ocala, and they would not return until late Sunday evening, always with new ribbons to hang and new stories about how Madison flawlessly cleared every jump. My job was to stay home and take care of the house while they were gone. I mowed the lawn, cleaned the gutters, and often had to scrub out the horse trailer when they got back, the smell of hay and manure clinging to my clothes for days. If I ever dared to ask if I could come along for the trip, my dad would let out a long, weary sigh and say, "You would just be bored sitting in the bleachers all day, Mia. You are better off here where you can be productive." My mother, meanwhile, turned the bulletin board at our community church into the unofficial Madison Miller fan club. Every single week, there were new photos pinned up. Madison frozen mid-air in a cheer stunt, Madison gracefully soaring over a jump on her horse, Madison holding yet another gleaming trophy. People would stop my mom after the Sunday service to tell her how proud the entire congregation was of her talented daughter. My report cards, with their consistent straight A's and teacher commendations, never once made it onto that board. When I won the school-wide spelling bee in the 6th grade, my mom offered a distracted good job before immediately turning to Madison to ask if her new show coat still fit properly for the upcoming weekend. My dad's morning routine was a daily ritual of dismissal. He would back his truck out of the garage, catch my eye in the rearview mirror as I stood at the end of the driveway waiting for the school bus, and say the exact same thing every single day: "Do not cause any trouble today." Then he would drive off, heading to take Madison to her early morning private practice. That was the entirety of my existence. I was the background character, the quiet, plain scenery that made the star, Madison, look even more brilliant. I learned very quickly that asking for anything for myself only served as an inconvenient reminder to everyone that I existed, and that my existence was a burden to them. The week before my 13th birthday, Madison had her own birthday extravaganza at the local equestrian club. They rented out the entire indoor arena, hired a professional DJ who played loud pop remixes, and even set up pony rides for the younger children of my parents' friends. There was a full dessert bar with a massive 3-tiered cake shaped like a golden horseshoe. She wore an all-white designer riding outfit adorned with rhinestones and a silk sash that said, "Birthday Princess." My mom had spent a solid month planning every single detail. My dad took a day off work just to help hang strings of fairy lights and set up the sound system. My birthday, in stark contrast, was officially labeled a simple family barbecue. That was the story anyway. That Saturday afternoon, our backyard was packed with people. Nearly 30 people had shown up, but they were all Madison's people. Her current cheer squad, a few girls from her riding team, their wealthy parents, and some of my parents' friends from the church. Only 2 kids from my actual 8th grade class came, and they both had the miserable look of children whose mothers had forced them to be there for the sake of politeness. The grill was billowing smoke. Someone had a Bluetooth speaker blasting country music, and my mom had set up a couple of folding tables with cheap checkered plastic tablecloths, even though the Georgia sun was still beating down mercilessly. For me, she had baked a single-layer vanilla cake from a box mix she found in the pantry. She had slapped on some canned frosting and stuck 13 cheap candles in a messy circle. She called everyone over when the burgers were almost done. I was wearing the same faded gray hoodie I had worn to school the day before because, in the flurry of planning Madison's life, no one had remembered to get me a new birthday outfit. Madison was still in her rhinestone-studded riding jacket, posing for pictures with her friends on the patio furniture. My dad handed me the plastic cake knife and said, "Hurry it up, Mia. The food is getting cold and people are hungry." I leaned over the cake, my cheeks puffed out, ready to make a wish for a different life and blow out the candles. And that is when my mother did it. She'd been sipping from a large plastic cup of cheap Chardonnay. She let out that sharp, loud laugh, put her arm around Madison and slurred, "Right there," for the entire yard to hear. "You know, sometimes I honestly wish you were never born. This house would have been so much calmer." The music was still playing, but it felt like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the yard. Every conversation stopped cold. I heard one of the younger girls gasp. One of the dads coughed awkwardly into his beer can and looked away. But Madison, she did not miss a single beat. She flipped her perfect blonde ponytail over her shoulder and added in her sickly, sweet, mocking voice, "Mom, seriously, she just ruins everything." I felt my face go completely numb, like it was turning to ice from the inside out. My fingers felt disconnected from my hand as they gripped the plastic knife handle. Nobody corrected them. Nobody said, "Hey, that is going way too far." A few of Madison's friends actually giggled behind their hands. My dad, my own father, just flipped another burger on the grill as if he had not heard a single word of the cruelty. I placed the knife down on the table, my movements slow and deliberate. I did not slam it. I did not cry. I turned and I walked back inside the house. Through the sliding glass door, past the cooler full of drinks that no one had offered me, up the stairs, and then down into the cold, dark basement that had served as my room for 4 long years. I dragged out the old, battered Chromebook the school had issued 2 years prior, the one with the cracked screen. I grabbed every t-shirt and pair of jeans that still fit me, including the hoodie with the hole in the sleeve. I took my toothbrush from the small half bath that no one else ever used. I pulled out the old metal coffee can I kept hidden behind the furnace. Inside was $320 in crumpled $5 and $10 bills, money I had earned from sweeping the church parking lot and walking the neighbors' dogs over the last year. I stuffed everything into the same blue JanSport backpack I used for school. I tore a single sheet of paper out of an old spiral notebook. In big, bold letters, using a black Sharpie, I wrote just 6 words they could not possibly miss. "I am gone. Do not look for me." I left it right in the center of the kitchen island on top of the stack of paper plates. Then I walked back out through the side yard. The party had already resumed as if nothing had happened. Someone had turned the music up even louder. My mom was pouring herself another cup of wine. Madison was now posing on top of the picnic table for a group photo with her squad. I did not look at any of them. I pushed open the side gate, stepped onto the quiet sidewalk, and did not look back. I walked 4 blocks under the dim orange glow of the streetlights, past the big, perfect suburban houses with their manicured lawns, past the corner where the streetlight always flickered. My grandparents' little brick house sat quietly at the end of the cul-de-sac, the porch light on, a warm and welcoming beacon, just like it always was. I got there just after 1 a.m. and knocked softly on the door. My grandma opened it wearing her old floral robe, her hair in curlers. She took one look at my face, at my backpack, and at the tears I could no longer hold back, and she pulled me inside without a single question. She just held me tight while the weight of everything I had been carrying for 13 years finally came pouring out of me. My grandma closed the door behind me that night, and that was the last time I ever set foot in my parents' house. Their small, 1-story brick home, which they had paid off since the late 80s, was only 4 quiet blocks away, but it felt like it was in a completely different universe. My grandpa had been the head mechanic at the local Ford dealership for 30 years before retiring. My grandma had run the front office at the dental practice on Main Street. That very night, they gave me the back bedroom, the one with the twin bed, the sturdy old oak dresser, and a window that looked out onto a magnificent magnolia tree. My real education began the very next morning. Grandpa had me out in the garage by 6 a.m. Mia, him in his faded work pants, me still in yesterday's clothes. He started teaching me the things that actually mattered in life. He showed me how to gap spark plugs on his old 1988 Chevrolet C10 pickup, explaining the precise measurement needed for the perfect spark. He taught me how to bleed the brakes without letting any air pockets into the line, and how to tell the difference between the whine of a bad wheel bearing and the squeal of a loose belt, just by listening to the engine. On Saturdays, we would drive the old truck down to the Chattahoochee River with 2 simple cane poles and a can of sweet corn. He showed me how to bait a hook so the fish could not just steal it, how to read the water and keep my line in the shaded areas. And most importantly, he taught me how to be patient, how to just sit and wait for the right moment. Grandma took charge of my education inside the house. She taught me real Southern cooking, the kind you cannot learn from a TikTok video or a cookbook. She showed me her secret for buttermilk drop biscuits that were light as air, how to fry okra so it was perfectly crisp and never slimy, and how to turn a single 5-pound chicken into 3 completely different, delicious meals. Every Sunday afternoon, after church, she would sit me down at the kitchen table with her checkbook and an old plastic calculator. She taught me how to balance a budget, how to track every single dollar so that it worked for you instead of you working for it. She would always say, "Mia, being poor is a mindset, but being broke is just a temporary condition you work your way out of." I got my learner's permit and started my first real job at 15. It was the opening shift at the Daily Grind, a local coffee shop. That meant waking up at 4 a.m., walking the mile to the cafe in the pre-dawn darkness, unlocking the heavy doors, and starting the espresso machine. I would pull shots and steam milk until the line of customers stretched out the door by 6 a.m. The tips went into a jar, and I got paid in cash every Friday. During the summers, I started a lawn mowing business, handling 25 lawns in the older neighborhoods with a push mower, a weed eater, and a leaf blower I bought at a yard sale. I charged $80 a yard, all cash. In the winter, I worked the front desk at the community library from 6 to 10 p.m. 3 nights a week, helping younger kids with their homework while I did my own in the back office. My grandpa had the heart attack while he was working under a neighbor's minivan in the driveway. I came home from school and found him lying on the concrete. He held on for 2 days at the hospital before passing away. At his funeral, my parents stood in the very back and left before the graveside service even started. Madison just sent a generic flower arrangement. She did not even show up. My grandma kept going for a while, but the pancreatic cancer took her fast, just 6 months from the diagnosis to hospice care. She passed away the week I turned 18, right after my high school graduation. The reading of the will was a simple affair at a small lawyer's office on the town square. The house, the paid-off Chevy truck, and $45,000 in a savings account were all left to me. As the only grandchild mentioned and a legal adult, it was straightforward. That summer was a blur of hard work. I picked up the morning shift at the coffee shop and mowed lawns in the brutal Georgia heat. I ran the library desk 4 nights a week. I saved every single paycheck. I sat at a public computer in the library and filled out the FAFSA, line by painstaking line. I wrote my college application essays in the quiet back office of the library, printing them out for 10 cents a page. My old high school counselor, Ms. Higgins, read over my final draft, looked at me over her glasses and said, "Mia, this is it. Hit submit." So I did. The thick acceptance packet from the Georgia Institute of Technology arrived in April. It was a full-ride scholarship to their mechanical engineering program, covering tuition, fees, housing, and a meal plan. Everything but books and spending money. I packed that same old JanSport backpack, now with a few more shirts, the Chromebook that was on its last legs, and a single professional suit I bought from Goodwill for future job interviews. The week after Grandma's funeral, I had all the locks on her house changed, just in case. Standing in that driveway on the morning I was set to leave for Atlanta, the truck keys in my hand and my backpack over my shoulder, I felt something I had not felt in 5 long years: peace. 5 years of pure, unadulterated grit had been forged into a future I had built with my own 2 hands, and not a single person who shared my last name had anything to do with it. The summer I turned 18, it felt like I could finally take a full breath. The house was mine. The acceptance packet from Georgia Tech was sitting like a trophy on the kitchen table, and I had a countdown on my phone. 47 days until move-in day. I was working double shifts, hoarding every dollar and daydreaming about dorm life in a campus where nobody knew the name Miller. Then, on a completely ordinary Tuesday evening, my phone buzzed. It was a notification I had not seen in 5 years. My mother had created a new group chat titled Miller Harrington Wedding 2025. The first message was a 30-second video. It showed Madison on one knee in a field of sunflowers. Her boyfriend, Tyler Harrington, 22, permanent cowboy hat, and about 190,000 TikTok followers. The complete Southern influencer package was holding out a diamond ring that caught the golden hour sunlight like a flare. She shrieked, leaped into his arms, and he spun her around as a drone camera pulled back to reveal the romantic scene. The caption read, "She said yes to forever, y'all." I stared at the video for a lot longer than I should have. Then the messages started flooding in. First, my mom. "God is so, so good. We are beyond blessed." The wedding is set for next June at the Manor. Yes, the big restored barn. We are planning for 200 guests, a full floral ceiling, a live band, fireworks, the whole dream. The budget is looking like around $200,000, and we want every single family member to be a part of this miracle. Then my dad chimed in, "Could not be prouder. Let us make this an unforgettable day for our girl." Then my mom again, this time with a message addressed directly to me. "Mia, you own Grandma's house free and clear now, so we have worked it all out. Every close family member is contributing $20,000. That is only fair. You have the equity in the house, you are an adult now, and Madison has carried the Miller name with pride her entire life. Family helps family. $20,000. I sat on the tailgate of my grandpa's old Chevy, my work boots dangling and iced coffee sweating in my hand, and I reread the message as if it were written in a foreign language. My boyfriend, Caleb, pulled up in his Jeep about 10 minutes later for our usual Tuesday night drive-in movie. He took one look at my face, cut the engine, and asked what was wrong. I just handed him my phone without a word. I watched his jaw get tighter and tighter as he scrolled through the messages. When he got to the part about my contribution, he let out a short, sharp breath. He handed the phone back to me and just said, "They actually typed that out. They think that is a reasonable thing to ask of you." I stared at the screen until the words started to blur. Then I opened the group chat and I typed a single 2-letter word, "No." The typing bubbles from my mother and Madison appeared almost instantly. They would pop up, disappear, then reappear. My mom first, "Mia, this is not a request." Then Madison, "Are you being serious right now?" And then my mom again, a longer message. And there it was, word for word, a perfect echo of the sentence that had shattered my world when I was 13. You know, sometimes I honestly wish you were never born. This house would have been so much calmer. I felt the air rush out of my lungs, not with pain this time, but with a sudden, profound emptiness. It was like a final confirmation of a truth I had known all along. Caleb just watched me, waiting. I did not cry. I did not yell. I just opened my phone settings. I went into my contacts first. I blocked my mom's new number, my dad's cell, Madison's main number, Madison's backup number, Tyler's public business line, and even the stupid wedding hashtag account she had already created. Then I went through every app one by one. Instagram, search, block, confirm. TikTok, same. Facebook Messenger, same. Snapchat, Cash App, Venmo, everything. Every single digital thread that still connected me to them, I systematically severed in under 4 minutes. When I was finished, the group chat had vanished from my phone as if it had never existed. I looked up at Caleb. "I am getting a new number tomorrow." He just nodded once, pulled me into a hug, and held me while the sun set over the rooftops of the town. That night, I ported my old number to a Google Voice account that went straight to a voicemail I would never check, and I bought a new SIM card at Walmart for $20. It was the best $20 I had ever spent. I slept deeper that night than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up to see 53 missed calls from private numbers on my old line. I deleted the entire call log without a second thought. By noon, the texts from extended family started rolling into my old number. "Your mom is crying her eyes out. Madison is devastated. $20,000 is not that much when you own a whole house." I blocked them all as they appeared. Madison launched her first public attack that afternoon. It was a TikTok filmed in her truck, no filter, mascara already streaking down her face. The text on the screen read, "When your own sister refuses to help pay for your dream wedding after everything your family has done for her." She then flashed the same childhood photo my mom always used, the one where I am squinting uncomfortably into the sun as a kid. She set it to some sad, trending ukulele audio and let the comment section do the rest. It had 3 million views by sunset. I did not watch it. I did not have to. The internet was doing her dirty work for her, but I did not respond. Not once. Because I had learned a long time ago that some doors, once you close them, you have to nail them shut from the inside. And that is exactly what I did. My Aunt Brenda was the first to arrive, exactly 6 days after I hit block on everyone. She pulled up in her white SUV at 8:30 on a Monday morning, still wearing the floral dress she had worn to church the day before, her eyes already puffy and red. She did not bother knocking. She pounded on the door. I watched her on my new doorbell camera for a full minute before I finally opened the door, just a few inches, leaving the security chain on. She launched into her speech before I could even say hello. "Mia Miller, you get out here right now. Blood is thicker than water, and you are breaking your sweet mama's heart into a million tiny pieces. The Lord wants families to be whole, not torn apart over something as worldly as money." She went on and on, her voice cracking with emotion, talking about forgiveness and how Madison was crying herself to sleep every night, and how I was acting like a spoiled, selfish, ungrateful child. I let her finish her entire tirade. When her sobs finally slowed, I said in a calm, quiet voice, "You have said what you came here to say. Now please leave my property." I closed the door, slid the deadbolt into place, and turned off the porch light even though it was broad daylight. She stayed out on my porch, sobbing loud enough for the neighbors to start peeking through their blinds, for another 25 minutes before she finally got in her car and drove away. My dad chose to make his move during Caleb's Saturday morning shift at the Daily Grind. He walked in wearing his steel-toed work boots and mirrored sunglasses, did not order a thing, and just planted himself right in front of the cash register while the line was a dozen people deep. He raised his voice, making sure every customer in the small cafe could hear him. "You tell that little thief," I raised, "that if she does not pay her fair share for her sister's wedding, I am going to file a police report for the watch and the cheer money she stole when she ran away at 13. Caleb did not even flinch. He just gave my dad the same polite plastic smile he gives to rude customers and said, "Sir, you have 10 seconds to leave the premises before I call the local police myself." My dad, furious at being challenged, slammed the door so hard on his way out that the little bell above it flew off its hook. The cafe owner pulled the security footage, banned my dad for life, and posted the clip of the confrontation on the shop's Instagram story with my dad's face blurred and the caption, "We protect our people." It got over 30,000 views in a single day. My mom went for the full-on martyr approach. She posted an 800-word essay in a private Facebook group for the women of our community church. The title was, "Please Cover My Prodigal Daughter in Prayer." In it, she painted a fantastical picture of me as a rebellious teen who had fallen into a secret online gaming addiction, stole money from the family, ran away just to spite her godly parents, and was now refusing to help with her sister's covenant marriage. She attached the same childhood photo and ended the post with a string of crying emojis, a broken heart gif, and a link to her Cash App, adding, "If the Lord leads you to bless Madison's special day." The post was quickly shared to the main church page, and from there, it spread like wildfire to every neighborhood group within a 20-mile radius. By Wednesday, my old high school teachers were texting me screenshots asking if I was okay. Madison dropped the final hammer on Thursday night. It was a 60-second TikTok filmed in her dark bedroom, the ring light on low, her mascara perfectly smudged for the camera. The caption read, "POV, your little sister gets addicted to video games, steals your things, runs away at 13, and when you finally get engaged, she ghosts the entire family and refuses to help pay for your wedding." She then flashed the actual note I had left on the kitchen island all those years ago. She had kept it all this time. She zoomed in on my 13-year-old handwriting, the words, "I am gone. Do not look for me," looking stark and childish. She set the whole thing to a trending sad country song and loaded the caption with hashtags like prodigal sister and family betrayal. It hit 3 million views in 36 hours. The comments section was a bloodbath. People found my LinkedIn profile and my high school graduation announcement. They started flooding Caleb's Instagram. Someone even created a burner account called The Real Mia Miller Exposed and posted my home address with a skull emoji. My old voicemail inbox filled up with messages from strangers quoting scripture at me and calling me names. One woman left a 5-minute message, sobbing about how I was tearing the community apart. I saved everything, every screenshot, every recording, every timestamp. I forwarded the most explicit threats to the police department and also sent a full file to the Office of Student Integrity at Georgia Tech, so they would have a record of the harassment before I even set foot on campus. Caleb and I changed all our routines overnight. I started parking 2 streets away from my house and using the back door at work. He started carrying his legal protection in a sling bag. We turned off all our location services, made our social media accounts private, and even paid a service to scrub our personal information from those people search websites. The pressure was suffocating. There were random cars driving slowly past my house at night. Ladies from the church would leave passive-aggressive casseroles on my porch with notes about turning the other cheek. Madison was posting daily updates about her shattered heart and how she just wanted her sister back, while my mom was sharing the GoFundMe link like it was a Bible verse. But every new attack, every new lie only made one thing crystal clear. I had been right to walk away at 13. They had not changed. They had not grown. They had just gotten louder, meaner, and much more skilled at playing the victim. And I was done playing their game. Mr. William Harrington did not mess around. He owned the largest chain of building supply stores in all of Middle Georgia. His son, Tyler, worked for him part-time, managing the company's social media between his own TikTok shoots. When Tyler came to him, all upset about how Madison's crazy little sister was ruining everything, Mr. Harrington listened for about 30 seconds before he picked up his phone. He did not call my parents. He hired a digital forensics company out of Atlanta, the kind that handles high-stakes corporate cases and messy divorces. They legally pulled every text message, every deleted TikTok draft, and every cloud backup from the old phone Tyler had given Madison 2 years ago. It took them 4 days. He then called my parents and Madison to his office on a Thursday afternoon. It was in one of those big, intimidating glass buildings with American and Georgian flags flying out front. He told them to come alone, no lawyers. This was family business. They showed up smug and confident, thinking he was going to offer them more money for the wedding. Mr. Harrington had them wait in a large conference room with a long table. He did not offer them a seat. He just opened a single manila folder and began laying out printed pages one by one. First came the screenshots of my mom's prayer request from the church Facebook group, then printouts of Madison's viral TikToks with the fake stories. Then, a transcript of the exact text message where my mom wrote, "I wish you were never born," for the second time. Then a transcript of my dad's threat at the coffee shop taken from the security camera audio. He even had a high-resolution photo of the note I had left on the kitchen island when I was 13. Madison had posted it in a private story, and the forensics team had recovered it. Finally, he slid one last page across the polished table. It was a sworn affidavit from the forensics company confirming that every single item had been recovered from devices registered to either Tyler or Madison. He finally looked up from the papers, his face as hard and unforgiving as concrete. "Here is how this is going to go," he said, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Madison, you are going to post a full public apology video on all of your social media platforms within the next 24 hours. You will read a script that I will approve, word for word, admitting that you lied about your sister stealing from you, running away, and everything else. You will also announce that you and your parents will no longer be accepting any financial assistance from Mia for the wedding, and that the budget is now entirely your responsibility." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "If that video is not live by tomorrow night, the wedding is off. I will pull my $50,000 contribution. Tyler will lose his job and the lease on his truck, which are both in my name, and I will personally make sure that every wedding vendor in a 100-mile radius knows exactly why we canceled." He then looked at all three of them. "Your second option is you walk away right now and figure out how to pay for your own party without dragging my son's name through your family's disgusting mess. You choose." Madison immediately burst into tears. My mom jumped in, babbling about forgiveness and how this was a family matter that should be worked out privately. My dad tried the kids make mistakes line. Mr. Harrington did not raise his voice once. He just cut them off. "I do not care about your excuses. I care about the fact that my son is about to marry into a family that treats its own blood like garbage and then lies to the entire world about it. Make your choice." Madison looked at Tyler, her face a mess of tears and desperation. Tyler just stared at the floor. She whispered, "I cannot post that. I will lose everything. My followers, my brand deals, I cannot." Mr. Harrington just nodded once, as if he had expected this. He closed the folder. "The wedding is postponed indefinitely. Tyler, the keys to the truck are to be on my desk in the morning. You have 30 days to move out of the apartment that I am paying for." He stood up. "You are all free to leave my office now." They left. Madison was sobbing uncontrollably in the parking lot. My mom was screaming that he was a monster who was destroying her daughter's life. My dad was just red-faced and silent. That night, Caleb got a text from Tyler from a new number. It just said, "It is over." My dad killed the wedding. I did not celebrate. I did not feel a sense of victory. I just felt a profound, quiet stillness. The people who had thrown me away like trash at 13 had finally been forced to look in a mirror, and they could not stand what they saw. Madison's carefully constructed social media empire crumbled faster than anyone could have imagined. Within a week of Mr. Harrington pulling the plug, the 5 biggest brands she had endorsement deals with, a boutique clothing line, a teeth whitening company, a local jewelry designer, an energy drink startup, and a lifestyle brand, all publicly dropped her. Their public statements were polite but firm, citing that after recent events, they no longer felt their values aligned. The private emails, which were inevitably leaked, were much more direct. They included screenshots of her old texts, the recovered church group posts, and the photo of the note from when I was 13. One by one, her contracts were canceled, payments were reversed, and the free product shipments stopped. Her follower count, once her most prized possession, froze and then began to bleed. She went from 190,000 followers down to 130,000 in a single month. Her comment sections, once filled with praise, were now a toxic wasteland of accusations and mockery. She ended up taking an administrative assistant job at a real estate office. 9 to 5, business casual, answering phones and making copies for $42,000 a year before taxes. Tyler moved back in with his father and took a job working in the warehouse of the family company. My parents received a formal letter from the elders of our community church the following Sunday. The board had voted unanimously to place them on church discipline, a temporary suspension of all membership privileges for bearing false witness and bringing reproach upon the church. The translation was simple: no more teaching Sunday school for my mom, no more serving for my dad, no more invitations to the potlucks and social events. People in the grocery store would still offer a polite nod, but the inner circle had closed ranks. The women's Bible study group quietly removed my mom from their group chat. My dad's usual table at the men's weekly breakfast suddenly had no empty chairs when he walked in. I graduated with honors in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, a 3.8 GPA, a co-op at a national lab, and a full-time job offer before I even had my diploma in hand. Caleb proposed on the night of my commencement with a ring he had designed and fabricated himself in the university's engineering lab. We were married the following spring in a small, simple chapel on the banks of the river where my grandpa had taught me to fish. We had 40 guests, our college friends, my new co-workers, and a few of the old neighbors who had watched me grow up after my grandma passed. We had white folding chairs, wildflowers I had picked myself, and barbecue for dinner. I wore my grandma's pearl earrings and the same quiet, confident smile that I was finally starting to recognize as my own. Not a single member of the Miller family was invited, but I did mail one extra envelope. It was a simple thank you card addressed to Mr. William Harrington. Inside, I put a photo of Caleb and me cutting our small wedding cake. On the card, I wrote, "Thank you for showing me that real family is not always the one you are born into. Sometimes blood is not thicker than water. Sometimes the people who choose you, who stand up for you when the rest of the world is screaming lies, they are the only family that truly matters." I learned that lesson the hard way when I was 13. I rebuilt my entire life on that truth, and I never, ever looked back. And today, when I sign my name, Mia Collins, I do not feel like the spare part anymore. I feel like the one who survived, the one who won. End of story.